What do we got? Oh, we got 2 minutes after the hour.
You want to flash up that poll? Maybe we'll get some people to think about that.
The War and Peace poll? Let's do it.
Yeah, why not? Let's see what they have to say. We'll come back to it. Ooh, look at that. That's fancy.
This is the first time we've ever done a poll. I'm surprised it works.
I was worried. I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm assuming it popped up for you guys because I can't answer this.
It did. Well, I'm going to answer for you, Corey, because I know what you're answering.
Oh, okay. So it says hosts and panelists can't vote. So that's it.
Dang it.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people on, so they're gonna. Hey, does it show it here in real time?
It does for me.
Okay.
I think I have to end the poll and show the results. I don't know how that's going to look, but we're going to wing it.
We're going to do it.
We are amazing at security, but we suck at Zoom.
Is anybody really good at Zoom?
Is Zoom good at security?
I want to tell you what, they throw a bunch of patches out a lot.
They actually got a chief security officer right after that big snafu around what, March of last year or April?
Okay, I think we hit our peak here. Actually, everyone voted. Look at that.
Whoa,
100%
look at that.
participation.
You guys rock. Everybody gets an A for effort today.
Oh, wait, I'm a liar. Sorry. They're
Stragglers?
Zoom. 85% of people voted.
Okay.
All right, we'll take it
87.
though. 80. That's peer pressure is kicking in.
Hey, those 14%. We're looking at
All
you.
right.
All right.
Send it, Corey.
I'm
What do
going
we
to
got?
end the
Let's
poll.
publish.
Boom. Share results.
Let's look. Ooh. Oh, interesting. Interesting. We got to find out who those 7% are. All right.
All right.
Well, that's kind of cool. That's kind of interesting. So 93%. Well, let's just get started, guys. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. All right, guys. So welcome to our webinar. I think you'll get a lot of kick out of this today. We're going to be talking about how to avoid becoming the next 0 days security breach headline. So in this webinar, you're going to see the steps that you can take to avoid becoming that victim of that 0 day cyber attack, both in times of war, like you 93% think, and times of peace, like your other 7%. You're going to hear from some really cool speakers today. We've got managed security service provider Michael Crean, and we have from Solutions Granted, and then we also have cybersecurity vulnerability management expert Cristian Sadnescu from CODA Intelligence, and these guys are going to talk about the steps that you need to avoid becoming that headline, both in times of peace and in times of war. So if you guys have any questions, don't wait to the end. You can, if you don't listen to the instructions, you'll probably put it in the chat, but I prefer you to put it in the Q&A section. It'll be on the bottom right next to leave. So don't leave the seminar, but stay there and hit Q&A. And then what we'll do is after the seminar is over, we'll go ahead and tally up all the Q&As and put them together in a document and send it out to you. So you have your questions answered, even if it wasn't live on this session. All right. Okay, folks, let's get right into it. So, this slide, basically what we're talking about here is that the sheer number of cyber breaches is no mystery to any of us here. But what's kind of interesting is that some people will say, well, look, we're seeing the trend sort of coming down a little bit in terms of the breaches and the exposures that are out there. But really, this isn't necessarily a decline in the impact of these cyber breaches necessarily. It's actually what we're starting to see here, and Michael will talk about this as well, is a shift away from how these mass attacks that are seeking these basically consumer information, and these attacks are now getting more targeted towards businesses that are using logins and credentials for passwords. So previously, a lot of the attacks were very much shoot and spray, trying to harvest as many casualties as you could. And now it's much more of a sniper attack. So it's really shoot and kill with extreme accuracy. So the targets have changed from really the enterprise space to now the SMBs having a bullseye on their backs as well. So it's not necessarily a target to a specific company, but more of a market segment. So it's not necessarily a specific organization all the time. And this is what we're also seeing, that these targets are going after some vendors in the industry. So they're looking at vendors based on industry, size of company, type of security profile that they have. And so we did see this a lot in the space in 2018, 19, and 20, but we've also seen them as well this year. So the moral of the story is that, look, no matter the size of company you are, you really can't relax. Cyber criminals are out there looking for easy targets, easy wins, and the trend is going to be more towards data breaches that are more precise and sophisticated. Next slide. So, understanding the average timeline of a cybersecurity incident, most people think, well, how long does this take? Are we talking hours and minutes in terms of finding and detecting and containing a breach? In actuality, according to IBM's security report of a cost of a breach, this was a study released last year, the average time is about 280 days. That's a long time. We're talking well into over half a year. So the time to detect, contain, and breach from a malicious attack, well, we're now approaching almost a year. So 315 days. And if you think these costs are very low or high, no, they're actually over $1 million per attack. So this is something that's really impacting a lot of companies, and the business is pretty darn good. So next slide.
Hey, Greg, one thing I'd like to maybe mention on that is, people think that this isn't happening in the SMB space and that the enterprise has got it locked down and they've got it taken care of. If we go back a few years and we think about the OPM breach, those threat actors were inside of that environment for a year. And so we are talking about a massively large US government agency that has more money to spend on their cybersecurity than probably all of us put together. And they had a hard time detecting it for a year. So it's not just about the big guys doing it right and the small guys not. This is a problem across the board.
Yeah, and let me just say this, with respect to the criminal activity, it's very profitable. Stealing and crippling businesses, that's what they do. That's their business, and business is really good. These state-sponsored and private-sponsored actors, they're figuring out very creative ways to monetize your data and the oversights that you have in your data infrastructure. So if you look at an example here on the right, you're seeing that just in about 3 years ago, the average ransomware attack, the payout was less than $10,000. Fast forward just 2 years later, the average ransom payout was over 20 times more at nearly $250,000. So we had a question here by Mike Wonder. What percent of ransomware attacks are paid out? I love that question, Mike. Here's your choices. Most companies are either going to probably buy Bitcoin, as we were kind of joking around earlier, or they're going to have to figure out how they can shore up their shore. Mike, do you want to answer this? What do you think?
I think just let's look at what happened in the news. I mean, we've seen a $70 million ransom requested on the Kaseya breach. We've seen a however many millions of dollars was requested on the Colonial Pipeline, and then we've got JBS, and I think JBS paid 11 million or 12 million or somewhere around that. So it is appearing that a lot of these organizations are starting to pay the ransom, and it's a slippery slope. You don't pay it, lose more data, get it put out on the dark web, have more credibility destroyed, pay it, and we fuel the fire. I don't think there's a right answer to it, but it certainly is looking like there's a lot more ransoms getting paid today than I've ever seen in the past.
So we had Richard, he said as high as 80%. I think we're in the ballpark here, guys. I mean, and then we had another one that said by Ben Jones. I saw an article where hackers are holding Facebook accounts for ransom. So it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. They can monetize it in other ways. We had a question also come in on the QA, Mike. As far as the sources for this data, we can provide that. Actually, these slides we'll make available. And if you get in touch with us, and we'll show you how to do that. So you don't have to worry about taking notes, but we'd love you to pay attention. That'd be great. So
there was one good question I saw come in from David. He asked the question about cyber insurance. Is it a liability? What do we think of it? I think up until what I've heard recently, always get it, do it, buy it. But here's the one thing, and we talked about this maybe a month or two ago, The US government has come out and said that they are looking at ways of making ransomware a terrorist act. If you read every insurance policy out there, anything that you ever read, it's the force majeure, it's the acts of God, it's the force of nature, and terrorism is not covered. So if the US government makes ransomware a terrorist act, I have no idea what will happen to the insurance industry and cybersecurity insurance. So if you feel strongly about it, you should probably talk to somebody. You know, why pay for a policy on something that if the number one thing we're trying to compensate ourselves for is ransomware, but now it's looked as a terrorist act, you're not going to get compensated for it. We've seen it happen. We had an individual that was working with their insurance company, and they said they would not reimburse the client until they went to the watch list to make sure that these particular threat actors weren't already on the terrorist list. But now we're talking not about a group of people, we're just talking about an action. Big deal, really big deal.
Yeah, and we had a good comment by David Moore. And yeah, insurance companies are specifically saying that if you don't have X protection, you won't get insurance. In fact, I mean, you'll practically have to go to Lords of London to get a policy right, or your premiums are going to go out through the roof. So generally speaking, one of the first calls people will make if they're under a time of war is, well, maybe the second call will be the lawyer because their phones start to ring off the hook. So let's go to the next slide, which really dovetails nicely into what we've been talking about. So we've all heard about what's been happening this year. So if you really think just the fat cats on Wall Street are easy targets and the average Joe is not affected, think again. This is affecting everybody. It's affecting everyone's pockets and everyone actually on this call today. So, you know, a single compromised password took down the largest fuel line in the US, and that led to gas shortages that impacted us 25 to 50% per gallon. So, and this was all basically a VPN account that was somehow deactivated but used and didn't use MFA. So, I mean, this is what we're seeing. And in this case with Colonial, yeah, they paid the hackers. There were Russian-led crime, cybercrime. I think it was DarkSide. 4.4 something million shortly after the attack. And again, this is really what we're talking about here is a gross negligence by these companies. And they got really what they kind of deserved. And
I like that word, Greg.
What's that?
I like that word, gross negligence, because I agree. This one was definitely it.
And guess who paid for that? You think they only paid for 4.4 million? Everybody felt that pain in their gas pumps. So, well, except if you drive a Tesla, maybe that's right. So we won't go there. We won't go there. But again, it is affecting us in our pocketbooks. Next slide. So, well, let's look at another thing. Let's see how it's affecting us in other ways. JBS, meatpacking company. I think they're in Colorado, but they got operations all over the place. Attack hit them in North America, even affected Australia, their systems there. And they were delaying transactions with suppliers and customers. I think it was Michael was what, 11 million or something they paid out.
Yeah, almost 12.
So again, this was affecting us in our grocery lines, in our meat products, in everything. So this is affecting us in our receipts when we go out. So you can't really hide from this anymore. So let's go to another poll. I think this is a poll time question. You guys, this will be interesting. Rate your experience level using a vulnerability management tool. Your pop-up poll should be coming up right now. First one is, hey, I never used it. Or what is a VM? Are you a novice user, average user?
We have some Jedis. We got some Jedi Knights.
Really?
Got the Jedis?
Yes.
Yeah, Jedi Knight.
Nice.
We have at least 2.
It's good that the panelists can't vote on this one, right?
We're blocked out. We got boxed out of this one.
All right, we'll give it 15 more seconds.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how you guys do.
All right.
I really want to know if somebody even said they've never used one, or what is it?
There's always a wise.
There it is.
Yeah, there is that 28%.
There's my
boy.
people.
Oh boy, we're sending your information to DarkSide and Regal.
I'm excited. We got some Jedi Knights. I like it.
Yeah, hey, I'll take that. Maybe a couple masters in there. All right, let's go to the next one here. This is going to get fun now because I'm going to stop talking and you're going to hear some really cool presenters. So guys, let me tell you who we have here. You heard the voice. A lot of you are familiar with one of the voices. So on your left, you got coming in at what, 6'1.25", maybe? I don't know, weighing in at
what is he?
181 pounds, 9% body fat, decorated Army vet, 9-year Army Ranger, CEO, founder of Solutions Branded, Michael Crean. And then on your right, we've got, I don't know, 1.9 meters, maybe 75 kilos. This guy's on the metric system, CEO and founder of CODA, Cristian Sadnescu. So anyway, without further ado, Michael, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. Really great to have you all here. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Some of you know this, some of you don't know this. Who are we? What are we? Besides Corey's strong, rugged, magnetic, good looks and his amazing personality, we're actually kind of good at this stuff. Been around for 20 years, going on 21 years, really have focused over the last 10 years, and a formal devil dog. Yeah, that's exactly what we need to bring up. Let's stroke his eagle about his Marine Corps, the crayon eater of the group. We got it. He's there. Been on the CRN Security 100 list for the last 3 years. Not only have we been on the MSSP list, but we've been a top 100 sitting in around that 80, 85, 86, 87 for the last 3 years. For those of you that don't know, not sure what rock you've crawled out from underneath today, but we are sometimes referred to as the Cylance company. We are the largest Cylance MSSP user of the technology in the world. We have more seats of it out there deployed than anybody else. And I guess Cylance thinks, and the rest of the world thinks, that we've deserved to be that MSSP Partner of the Year for 3 years now. Greatly appreciate it. A little bit of who we are. We are here, we are for the channel, and this is what we do. So, talking about doing the basics, getting the fundamentals right, getting it together. We talk about these 3 things that bring it together, why it's important to us, because one thing does not fix anything. The unicorn that we all chase doesn't exist. So we talk about the 365 log monitoring, how important it is, and we understand that 365 is far more than anything that's just email anymore. Email security, I mean, goodness, if we had an opportunity to go back to last week's webinar, the amount of breaches that we see that come from naked 365, obviously talking about next gen AV, EDR, MDR, we're a big believer. We've seen what it can do. Our partners have all seen what it can do. You get 100,000 new variants of malware out there every day. A signature's not going to do it. This is where it's at. These are the fundamentals. This is the triangle. This is what we want everybody to focus on to make sure that they are heavy and getting down that journey and moving in the right direction.
Michael?
Yes, sir. What do you got? What do you got, buddy?
All right. So I kind of did something. You gave me access to these slides. I edited this slide. I want to give you a heads up now so you can't yell at me while we're on the webinar, but I did this. Okay.
You've done this to me before, Corey.
The triangle is great. Strongest geometric shape, but it's not good enough. We need to strengthen, right? Strengthen this triangle. Okay. So what better way, right? We're Spartans. So I came up with a great idea. We're going to fill in the circle.
Oh, God.
Right? The circle is not good enough. Or sorry, this triangle is not good enough. We need to strengthen it. Here we go. You ready for this? I did this. Look me up on LinkedIn if you need help with your PowerPoint slides. I can get PowerPoint to work. Ready?
Uh-oh.
And ching, ching, ching. Bam! Oh, wait, I messed it up. Hold on. There we go. Bam! Look at that. Look at that. We're filling in our triangle because the 3 basics aren't enough, right? We're going to strengthen that and start filling in because, just having 1 Spartan shield or 3, we can add more to make that Spartan wall, right? Make that phalanx, right? Boom. You're welcome.
It's the sound effects. Thank you, Corey. The creative liberties that we give you are amazing, but what really brings it home for me is the sound effects. I don't even know what to say. Wow, where we go from here.
Now,
Yes, it's poll time.
now it's full time. I'm speechless.
I don't know where to go from here, man.
Here we
Oh
go.
my God.
We're doing it live. Time for a poll.
Wheels are coming off. Oh, hey, Michael, do you want to talk a little about this? Can you trust your RMM tool?
I'm going to go with as far as I can throw them. It's every tool that you have has the necessary evil behind it. We definitely have to have it. This is not something that you can do without. You've got to have that oversight. You've got to be able to support your customers. You've got to have the patch management. I think a lot of this is going to be, do you trust them? Sure. Should you constantly be verifying? Absolutely. It's when we all used to use backups and we would go to the tape, you put your hand on the tape, you put the next tape in. There was a tactile feeling there that was happening and you knew what was going on with your backups. We've seen a lot of backup failures because it's auto magic. It's just working. It's behind the scenes. You're not touching it anymore. The watch pot never boils. Whatever you want to call it, you have to pay more attention to it. So yeah, we have seen, and personally, we have personally seen a lot of failures in RMM tools that we've tested ourselves for our own internal use.
Results are interesting.
I think we've got the middle of the road.
Yeah.
You're somewhat trusting. So maybe you're there, maybe you're not there. We got very few people that are saying absolutely, and
Wow.
we've got a few that are doing the none at all.
You know what I like
Bet your
about this?
life on it. Okay.
You know what I like about this? This is hitting home that they need to trust, but still have the ability to validate that the RMM is doing what it's supposed to do.
That's it. Alex is right.
So,
All right.
well, here it comes.
All right. So now we've got the 1.9 meter European coming straight from Romania, Cristian Sadnescu, CEO, co-founder of CODA. Chris.
Thank you very much.
Yours.
Thank you very much, guys. I actually want to start with the story. So on the next slide, I have a couple of stats. Some of them have been through already, but I really feel that, we are living in times of war. So why does the world need CODA? The latest IBM data breach report says that mature organizations require around 1.5 months to detect and isolate a data breach. But for the immature organizations, that's around 6 months or, close to a year even, like Greg was saying in the beginning. So our mission is to work with partners like SGI and reduce that to a day or even a couple of hours, like we've seen some things. So how do we actually do it? And I'm not really a slides guy. I'll prefer to jump straight into the product, but Corey, if you could help me with the next one. We really look at things from a real life exploitation perspective. That's what we're interested in. So what we did is we leveraged our 15 years of experience in this industry of penetration testing and security auditing to building a platform that helps you identify and really prioritize those vulnerabilities that really need your urgent attention. In other words, we focus on those vulnerabilities that are real life exploitable within your specific environment and that will most likely be used by attackers to take control of the organization. In practice, we've seen that they only need a couple of vulnerabilities, usually less than 5 really, to really take control over the entire company. And I mean root accounts, domain admins, stuff like that. And what's really interesting is that not everything is a CVE, as a lot of the VM players in the market tend to look at it. In fact, most critical vulnerabilities aren't even CVEs. There are no CVEs for weak passwords, for missing two factors, for exfiltrating data over the network, NTLM hashes, and this list can go on and on. We use TIGs and fingerprint reports, which is network breach and attack simulation, to identify vulnerabilities that don't have CVEs. and correlate those vulnerabilities, whether we find them in software, in configurations, or in the network architecture. And as Michael was saying, and Corey as well, patching is not the end-all, be-all solution to cyber problems, right? But it's a critical component. However, most RMM solutions have their blind spots and caveats, and they could sometimes give you a false sense of security. So if we take a closer look to, the recent Print and Hive nightmare exploits on the Microsoft platform on Windows, patching was not enough. Even if you would apply patches, it would still not be enough. For example, for the Hive nightmare, there is still no patch available. That's simply a configuration issue that's available in the latest Windows 10 and Windows 11. So I'll show you in the product, in the platform, what we do, how we use the real-life exploit validation engine that we've built to correctly assess each vulnerability within the organization. What do we actually do at CODA? So we offer you a platform that has multiple scan engine capabilities, which we overlap to give you to show you your attack surface from multiple postures. And we do those scans continuously, whether your assets are in the cloud, on-prem, whether you're using agents, or you do the scans over the network. We correlate all of that data with our threat intelligence feed to offer you full visibility and to provide you the contextual intelligence that will help you prioritize and really focus on those top 5 or 10 things that really, really deserve and require your urgent attention. We give you the ability to track and showcase progress and report against a couple of compliance standards, as well as export the data in real time to your other platforms, to your SIEM, and receive real-time alerts, and also issue periodic fully branded reports to your customers. And with your permission, Corey, I'd like to jump into the product. I hope that you can all see my screen. This is the Footprint platform. It's fully multi-tenant, so you can manage all of your customers in here. For this webinar, we've selected a couple of assets that we're scanning from the cloud internally as well. These are a couple of scanners that we have deployed. The cloud scanner comes default. We've also installed a local internal scanner, and we have a couple of agents as well. And all of these are pushing data within the dashboards, and you can see them starting with the devices and how they've been scanned. For example, this machine is being scanned from the outside as well as from the outside, which is here. That's the public IP address, as well as from the inside, and we can see differences between them. So for example, from the outside, we'll just see, a couple of really standard stuff like SSL, TLS, weak cipher suits, stuff like that. Although this is on RDP, so that's not really a good sign, but besides that, no significant vulnerabilities there. However, if we take a look at the internal IP of the same machine, we'll find out that there's more inside, there's more to it, right? So we actually have a couple of SMB vulnerabilities on TCP 445, right? And these are scanned with the agentless scanners. If we are to take a deeper look inside the agents, this is where we bring a lot of data points. We collect over 100 data points, which we correlate to calculate those risk scores. You can see that this is it's actually a fully patched machine. It's a Windows 10, Windows Defender on it. I actually updated it today. Let's see if it's running the latest patches. I've actually put this patch twice today for Windows Defender. No missing patches, so it's pretty up to date. But if we take a look at the vulnerabilities on this machine, you'll see that we have a couple of them. So on one hand, we have an Apache Tomcat running on 8080, which is vulnerable to this vulnerability. And this is, you could know that with a lot of our other tools. What we do very different is we put this technical exploitation context on top of it. So there are 7 steps that would need to be identified and properly chained. They all need to be active in order for this vulnerability to be exploitable. So it's not necessarily given that if it's running a vulnerable version, then yeah, it's a mess. So in this case, for example, we actually, if we go to the latest, to step number 7, we need to have some exploitable files deployed. They're not malicious. The file itself is not vulnerable. We can take a look at that. But together coupled with all the other vulnerabilities that we see here, it makes this one exploitable. And the bad thing about it is that it's exploitable over the network. So if I would just go to this host on 8080, I would see that there's a Tomcat there. I can take a look at, search for the file that I had inside footprint. I would identify it, right? It's just a benign file. A lot of developers forget these info PHPs file within their apps, or these batch files, it's hello worlds, stuff like that. It's not inherently vulnerable, but if we just add a couple of parameters here, you'll see that that was wrong. You'll see that we can actually execute remote commands on this machine. So I can take a look at who am I. I can see that I'm an unprivileged user in this case. I really am an unprivileged user.
This is scary, Chris.
It is, but the good thing is, look, the good thing is Tomcat isn't running under local system as it is on most of the default installations, right? We can take a look at the version of Windows. Yeah, that's a pretty new version. We can do a lot of stuff. That's remote command execution right there.
Michael, do you think anybody has soiled their pants yet by watching this?
I don't know, but I feel like Chris should take his yellow shirt off. He should put his dark hoodie on, turn the lights down, and hunch over the keyboard, because all of a sudden I feel like he's turned into a hacker.
This is actually the content of the file. So you see there's nothing, I wasn't using anything inside the file itself. It's just the correlation of things that are happening here. This Tomcat is running on Windows. The Tomcat version is vulnerable. CGI support must be enabled, privileged context. So if all of these come true and there's a batch file, it doesn't need to be hello bat, or if there's any empty batch file there, you can exploit this. Now, the good news is, as I was mentioning, is that you execute code remotely, but with an unprivileged account. Now, where the next part is also interesting is that we also have a 0-day from Microsoft. It's the Hive nightmare that's here. It's on a fully patched machine. There are no patches available yet. It's a 0-day released 14 days ago. We detected it in the same day that it was released. It's also called Serious Sam for the people. It needs a couple of things. So what they did in this version of Windows is that they screwed up some permissions on the SAM file, which is where the local hashes are stored. And this gets into the shadow copies, because even if you would have read permissions there, you wouldn't be able to dump them, because these are basically the registry keys. So they're in use by the system. You cannot access them. But because they're in the shadow copies, and we can actually score this pretty well, because we know we can correlate the permissions with the time the shadow copy was done. So we can tell with 100% certainty that this system is vulnerable for local privilege escalation, which will allow us at the end of the webinar, if we still have time, to dump those credentials and take a look at them. I don't want to take a lot of space and time with this, but it's really how we deal about those 0 days. And really, if we were to exploit this one, for example, we would need to bring in executables from the outside on this machine. There are a couple of ways you could do them. You could do that as a hacker, but most of the time you would transport them over the network. And this is where fingerprint comes in. This is our network breach and attack simulation, which is continuously checking. It's run by the agents. You can run it manually as well. It checks this machine's capability of accessing the internet and the network security controls, such as the next generation firewall, inbound, outbound protections that are implemented for this specific machine. So we see that we will be able to download our exploits from the internet without really having to even bother about evasion, and even exfiltrating data from the machine is going to be pretty easy based on how it's being configured, right? And right, so what do we do with those hashes then? And here is where the STIGs come into play. And the STIGs are going to tell you, they're released by the Center for Information Security Agency, by CISA, and they're going to tell you the configuration hardening components that can be done on the machine. So a lot of the things that you will find here, even if they're not high, for example, I don't know, I've seen a lot of environments with SMB version 1 or without SMB signing. What that allows the attacker to do is basically pivot once getting a hold of those NTLM hashes. They don't even have to crack them. They can use them and pass the hash to other machines and pivot laterally within the environment. So because SMB signing is not enabled, and because of this other vulnerability that we identify here, they will be able to pivot using the credentials that they might steal from this machine to other machines within the environment. So now, in terms of what else can you do? I mean, we automatically group those applications, the applications that we identify within technical and business services based on their role that they fulfill within the organization from a technical perspective. Then we go and generate automatically business services, which you can use to assign business impact so that they reflect the actual risk score within your organization. And whenever you alter these, you're going to alter basically the risk scores and the remediations. The bottom line of this is giving you guys access to contextual risk reporting, showing you which are the really top vulnerabilities that are weaponized, for which exploitation is feasible within your environments, together with, how did we calculate that and what are the remediation actions that need to be taken at times of peace and during times of war.
Hey, Chris, we got a question that came in from David Moore. He asked, it'd be interesting if you can add a button, the add to action plan button, so you can have a playbook scenario that you can build. Can you go through that a little bit and explain that to David and the team?
There is an action plan already. You can add stuff to the action plan. You can add, for example, individual vulnerabilities or groupings of vulnerabilities. Let me show you how that works. There is a workflow for managing the vulnerabilities inside Footprint. You can either add it to an action plan, mark it as fixed, mark it as a false positive. If you add it to an action plan, you'll have it there, and you can export it to your PSA or to someplace else, right?
And David, shout out if you're using, if you've got a specific PSA that you're asking questions about integration or interoperability, like ConnectWise or whatever, just chime in there and maybe we can address it real quick for you.
You can also subscribe to real-time notifications and feed the real-time alerts to other external systems. But yeah, in a nutshell, this is what I wanted to show you guys. I'll stop sharing so that we can go back to Michael.
All right, Michael, it's all yours.
So, better together. Why? Well, I think you guys saw some of it in there. One, this platform was built for MSPs. We noticed that right away when we started talking to CODA. That was important to us. They are not trying to go direct. They're trying to build out their channel. Sorry, they're not trying. They are building out their channel. This is not a try, this is a do. Or as Yoda would say, do or do not, there is no try. We found that they're so easy to work with. We've been down this space for a while. One of the reasons we're down this space is because it scares the ever-loving crap out of us. The reason it scares us so much is that we are blind to some of this. That blindness causes us to not know what's happening behind the scenes. Our partners want us to stop it all, kill it all, deny it all, protect the attack. There are certain things we just cannot do. We cannot protect against everything. When you start figuring out the vulnerabilities that are on the machine and you get rid of the fog, you get rid of the mist, and you get some clarity as to what's happening, it brings about a very easy, actionable intelligence that creates visibility for us. We've asked CODA to bring some additional reporting to the table. We asked them about STIGs, and we get a response within 24 hours. It's a multi-tenancy console. So you're logging in once and you're putting all of your technology customers in their organizational entities and being able to manage it. And I think the one thing that had me more excited than anything was the contextual intelligence. You know, we want to deliver this as a service. We want to run these tools for you, but we also want you to be able to validate us. So we're not holding anything back. We're giving you access to it. You're going to be able to see everything. You're going to be able to know things. You'll have your own logons. You'll be able to do your own research, and you'll get what we are going to feed you in this service to keep you up to date. But the best part of that contextual intelligence isn't looking at just a CVE anymore. Like Chris mentioned earlier, he showed you all of the steps that it was going to take for that vulnerability to actually be weaponized and exploited. So if we get a list of critical vulnerabilities that we discover, but we find that only one of them has all of the precursors necessary to become weaponized, that's going to be a 911 drill. That's going to be the moment that we tell you, stop everything. This needs your immediate attention. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 from my Monopoly fans out there. Get it done now. The rest of it, maybe it's not done today, maybe it's not done tomorrow, but at least sometime in the next few days, take care of these critical vulnerabilities. To me, that's exciting. That was one of the things that I thought when I saw this, like, man, what a great story we have to tell, because we are proactive, we are preventative. You've been hearing us talk about this for years. And so now what we're seeing is CODA puts so much intelligence and gets rid of the problem that we have been experiencing trying to keep you guys safe. Really excited about this, and couldn't be happier about this agreement and arrangement and partnership. And I think for me, as Corey's a pretty difficult POC tester, I didn't say difficult person, Corey, I said POC tester. I saw you. He likes to, his favorite word, he wants to reverse engineer every damn thing. He really does. And he'll tell you that he does. He would go to Chris and say, hey, we think we saw this, it's really strange, and there'd be a change and it would just be done. I mean, that type of nimble behavior really shows the commitment to us, which then allows us to show our commitment to you. And I don't know how better to explain just why we're here, and this is going to work for us and should work for you as well.
Beautiful.
Thank
What
you
we
for
got
noticing.
next here?
Appreciate
Yeah,
you noticing me, Greg.
I did want to make one statement, if I could. So if you were part of the last webinar, I made a very bold statement, right? I looked the camera in the eye and I said, stop doing pen testing if you aren't doing vulnerability assessment first.
Oh, yeah.
Consistently, I'm keep hearing of our partners or our partners' customers are to keep bringing in very expensive pen testers, and they're getting hit on things. And then I asked the question, well, did you do a vulnerability assessment first? And the answer is usually no. And so the way I look at it is, I'm not going to hire someone to say, okay, I need you to figure out how someone can break in my house, but leave the window open. Because no shit, they're going to go through the window. That's a vulnerability I have. So I'd rather identify all the vulnerabilities, fix all those vulnerabilities before I bring in an expensive person to come in and tell me what issues I have in my environment. It just makes sense to me. And that's what this helps bring to the table.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, guys, pen testers have a place. They're wildly important, but they're not important before. They're only going to tell you all of the things. And it's the, yes, oh, I knew that. You don't want to spend all of this money just to say, oh, I knew that. Do the vulnerability assessments first, have the vulnerability management tool so that you're doing all of the work that you can, so that when they find something and they give it to you, you look at it and say, oh, man, I didn't know that was possible. That's a really good one. Thank you for pointing that out to me. You want to be impressed by what they're doing. You don't want to look at it and say, oh, man, I knew that, or I could have figured that out. That's a waste of your time.
Hey, we got a question here. David McPike asked, is it possible to apply internal formulas or rules to CODA's automatic ranking in a report as a way to help remediation teams prioritize assets that are more important to the business? For example, increase the score if an asset allows inbound access from the public internet, is more critical to revenue, has a specific host name, contains sensitive data, etc. Chris, you want to take that?
I sure do. This is everything that I was reading that as well, and I was preparing to answer in the chat. Everything that David said is already taken into account. So there are specific asset tags that you can use, and specific zones, and specific, there are specific things that you can influence, starting with the business impact, asset exposure, and who's accessing that machine. These are all things that you can already configure.
Excellent. All right, let's go on to the next one. So folks, this is going to be interesting here. The last major ransomware attack, I think we're all familiar with who it was. It rhymes with Kaseya. Look, that thing that took place on 4th of July weekend, right?
Greg, is that a real word? Is Kaseya a real word? What did you do?
I don't know. It's got, maybe, is it a Greek god? I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Dude.
Like Nike is. Anyway, look, I remember Friday. In fact, I was at the shooting range when this was going on. My phone is blowing up and literally heating up. I think we all were having our phones blow up on that day. And it was a Friday, right? So guess what? I'm blowing out. I'm going to the range. And, everyone's calling me. And I'm sure Michael and Corey and everyone else is like, okay, yeah, we're on it. So look, these guys are choosing that day. It's an old strategy. It's not new. It's a technique that's been used many times and, by security teams in the past. The fact that these bad actors that are out there chose the 4th of July is it kind of clever? Yeah, you use it on a long weekend and maximize that effect so that, your victims can't react. And,
Greg, I don't think it's that clever. I go back to my days in the military, and what is the best time to attack? At dawn or dusk or in the middle of the night. Yeah. And why do you do it? Because the defenses are down, you're running less people on the perimeter, you're trying to get as much sleep as you can to keep your forces refreshed. So the cyber warfare that we're in is just taking a page out of the physical warfare that we have known for centuries. So they're not being clever. They're following it. I mean, and think about it. 3-day weekend. Do we want the 3-day weekend? No, we're already checked out. We're already thinking about it. We're kind of on, on Friday. Yeah, we're half-assed there. We're there. But what we're really thinking about is getting on the road, getting to the beach, going to the mountains, hanging out, doing whatever it'll be. That 3-day weekend is normally always a 4-day weekend because we're halfway out the door already. So clever, no. Predictable, yes.
And so, look, guys, we're on the precipice of another one. Guess what? 33 days from today, today's August 4th, as of this webinar or the recording, and if you're watching this later, you have less time. 33 days from today, we have our next 3-day holiday weekend. Now, they're not going to be clever. We know this is coming. That's the good news. And we know that these attacks will continue happening. But we have time right now to plan. And you know how the old adage goes, if anytime when you fail to plan to fail. So if we kind of look at it this way, how do we shore up our resources and prepare for that next wave? And get yourself ready, figure this out. If you don't use us, figure something out, get ready because it is coming. So we've got plenty more 3-day holidays coming up. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. It doesn't mean they're just going to pick 3-day holidays. At one point, I think we're going to say you guys are pretty predictable, right? So yeah, this is something you guys can do and take advantage of it. In fact, everybody who's on this call right now, I mentioned in the chat, you can take a free vulnerability scan, a fingerprint scan. And if you don't know how to do it, we'll help you. We'll figure out how to get that to you. And SGI will provide you links for all that information. All right. Oh my God.
There it is.
I needed my picture in there. Come on.
There it is. There's the baby boy right there. Mom and dad were so proud of him.
His testosterone levels are off the chart.
This is what happens when you give me access to your PowerPoint slides.
Oh my God. I don't know what's gonna. All right, Corey.
I feel like that's a good looking little kid right there.
Yeah.
And I love the red beard. I mean, it's like to the T. Hey, did you have a sleeve back then? No.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. All right. That was before the sleeve. All right, guys. So we try to do the best we could with answering in real time. You can see that these guys are responsive. We're not waiting to get back to you next week. We're doing it in real time. All these Q&As will be saved. We'll send them out to you. But if you've got questions, start chatting away, open it up. We actually did really good on time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, not bad. We didn't go very long like we did on the last one. We do have one question from Mike. Yeah, Mike, the intent on this is to run this like a white glove service. You know, this is going to be monitored by our team. We're going to give you some of the same things that you've been accustomed to. We're really looking at giving you the information. I've always called it that game of whack-a-mole. Look, maybe I'm just a big kid at heart. I love playing whack-a-mole, but it is the craziest, non-predictable, figure out where it's coming from, chaotic game ever. What we're going to do in this white glove service is we're going to provide the vulnerability prioritization service. We're going to make this very laser-like focus. We're going to tell you exactly what to attack, when to attack it, to make sure that you are getting the most out of this that you can. You know, when it comes to defining corporate impact and organizing the corporate assets, we're obviously going to rely on you. We will never know as much about your environment as you will know. And so we'll want you to tell us, hey, let us put the right tag on the devices that are most important to you. You know, if you are a manufacturing company and the PLMs that you have out on the floor are the most important to you, tell us. You know, if your SQL database is the most important to you, because if that gets hacked, you lose things, the data breach, whatever it may be, tell us so that we can tag it and get it right to you the first time. Tom, you said the same thing. Will we be managing the CODA product? Yes. One of the reasons we wanted to show you the interface, one of the reasons we wanted to talk about it is that I believe that everybody has and should have the ability to verify and check the checker. It is our job. It is our responsibility, but we don't want to take it from you. We want to give you as much access as you want, as much access as you think you need. If you don't want it, don't use it. If you don't like it, don't use it. If you want to be curious, if you want to dig around, if you want to just become a little bit smarter about what you're choosing to partner with us, use it. It's up to you. That's the exciting part about this is we don't have to tell you no because we can't give it to you. We can tell you, yes, you can have it, but you don't have to because we're going to take care of it for you.
Somebody's got to ask Corey a question. I mean, come on, man, baby.
Hey Corey, how'd you do those shields? How do you make those sounds?
His
Ching, ching. There you go.
Danny, yes, we'll definitely be able to do the demo for you. We'll get a follow-up out to everybody. We've got a URL. We'll send it out to you. We'll get you approved. We'll get it set up. Absolutely. No problem at all.
Ooh,
oh, there it is.
I love
there
it.
Comes.
Look at that. Well, let's see if that works.
Why did Corey just do the Atlas move? Like he's holding up the world. What is this?
Because I pushed a button.
Oh, is that what it was? There it is.
Look at that. Pulls it up right away. Guys, just if you haven't done this already, point it at the screen. Boom. Goes right to it. I love it.
Wow. It says
I
malware.
don't have to type a
install.
thing. That's pretty sophisticated. I like that.
All right. looks like we got a couple more questions, and I think Chris, you're standing there in the background doing the ooh, pick me. I've got the answers. So buddy, it's all yours.
Danny asked if I would still do the live exploitation of the serious SAM. If we have time at the end of the Q&A, yeah, for sure. For those folks that still want to stay on and see how that goes, yeah, it's my pleasure.
Okay.
All right, we can cut anything out and edit it later. So
Chris, here's a good one for you. I don't know the answer to this. Somebody was asking, can you find the vulnerabilities in a Siemens PLC system? I guess my first question, Owen, would be, is this a Windows-based embedded operating system, or what host OS is on the?
Yeah,
No.
it has to be a supported Windows system.
Currently, our agents only work on Windows system, but we're also having a development trunk for IoT devices where we build agents for IoT devices. So that's going to be available later in the roadmap. Not
Chris,
just right now.
would we be maybe able to do this with the network scanner and not do it with an agent?
We would definitely be able to do it with a network scanner.
So Owen, might be a possibility, maybe something we look at with you, get into a proof of concept, just see what we could discover and how.
For sure, definitely. The last question I started to write, but we can answer it live. The integration with the RMM, we would do it through an API. Currently, we cannot yet assign it to a technician, but that's something we look at developing pretty soon. It's on our roadmap.
Look at that, 2 minutes till.
Well, I mean, this is like an atomic clock practically. We've got it down.
We do.
Well, folks, if you've got questions and and it comes up to you after you hang up and leave this meeting, go ahead and hit one of those. Get a hold of the folks at SGI. They'll definitely track down that answer for you. By the way, one thing we were going to talk about, maybe we didn't get to, is the white labeling the console. Michael, you want to talk about that?
Sure. One of the things that we always hear quite frequently is, can I white label it? Can I take my logo and get it in there and give my clients the reports, brand this to me? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. We have that ability. We want this to be as much about you that you want it to be, and have your best foot forward so that when your clients are getting this, it's that constant reminder of why you're there for them. Not just because you say so, not just because they're paying the bill, but the deliverables that you can give to them, and that report that goes out that reminds them that you are there because you care.
Said. All right, guys. Well, if there isn't anything else in the chat, I think that's we kind of took care of most of them real time.
And it's right there, 1 o'clock. I mean, sorry, 3 o'clock. Oof, man, I'm losing time here.
All right.
Tom, I'll answer it quickly, unless we just killed it off. I don't think so. Tom, yes, this is separate. We do not have it embedded. It is going to get embedded into the Ultimate Security Bundle. And, oh, that was one Tom. And then the other Tom, you have to leave for another conference and you're interested. Well, Tom, we look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Well, there's one more.
No, you don't have to do the network scanner. What we prefer, or at least what I prefer, and probably this is going to be better for Greg or Chris, I love the host agents. One of the reasons I love the host agent is when the device leaves the environment, if you're really reliant on the network scanner, you're screwed. You got nothing. And that's where I have felt that in the past, when you look at a Nessus or a Tenable or a Qualys or one of those other technologies, you're not really getting the value of it. And because so many people are working from home and people are starting to travel again, it would be great to be able to do this wherever they are and not be dependent on the network scanner.
Chris, you want to add anything to that as well? I think Michael just did it.
He did it.
I was trained well. Chris,
Like,
you
okay.
you educated me.
We're done. All right. Cool, man. Well, this was a good one. I hope everyone got a good taste of it.
Thank you all. Really appreciate your time. Looks like
Thanks everyone for joining us today.
and it is the top of the hour. So thank you very much. And we look forward to chatting with you on the next. Baby Corey, send